pay them. You also have to safeguard that they continue to be optimized. The investments that are supposed to be made on behalf of the depositors, the right decisions about going into the interbank market, doing the treasury activity and so on, that has to continue because they've given us this money either for 6 months or 12 months and they're expecting a return. So we believe on our side, we've even made an offer that because litigation is not a means to an end, we are prepared to seize litigation action. And this litigation action is a two-way process. They have taken us to court, we have taken them to court. And we're thinking that if in the next couple of weeks, they are able to say, all right, there is at least a back channel here that we can talk. Now, their argument, I can just share with you what is their argument when it comes to section 122. So they're saying, you never had a license. If, for instance, yesterday you had the governor, the governor at the committee at Scopa yesterday, Ithala has never had a license. Now, that act, that section is written for an institution that's called a commercial banking license. But we know that even if they're a regulator, there are aspects of discretion to the public interest, to the depositors' interest, which they can rely on to be able to derive a particular decision. But we have offered a pathway. We have said if then they still insist that they can't grant us section 122, then they must go back to issuing a limited exemption. We know that and even if they are regulated, Honorable Chair, if you glean that act in section 1, you will see that in section 1 of the exemption, there is no contemplation of a timed exemption instrument. There's no contemplation. The Honorable MEC Zondi made a very remarkable comment when we were addressing the media in July. He said, I have a car that is fully functioning, it's fully serviced, it's not written off, it's on the road. I've just had an expired license, but the licensing board is refusing to issue me another licensing disc, and therefore I can't drive my car. So we're thinking there is a pathway, but it would have to take all of us. I think on our side as Ithala Soc Ltd and the board, we are ready. And I think the MEC, you had the spirits, we are ready to engage. I think it would be more and more also that the other parties are able to engage. We have always, in fact, up until we took the action in June 2028, we were actually still communicating with the PA and say, can we meet? Can we engage? And in fact, because of the rotation at the Prudential Authority, the current governor, Fundin Chasbana, was a new governor to us because our previous governor was Mr. Kuben Naidu, whom some of us worked with in the banking fraternity for many, many years. And he really understood some of the challenges that face. So to your question, yes, there is a pathway, but we need everybody to actually put away their own interest and look at the interest, not just of depositors, but also the public interest and the community at large. Ithala is playing one of the critical roles that it is playing. If you check the GDP savings ratio in this country, you'll see that is very low. Currently, people are taking money out of the two-pot system. They are consuming it. We have an old product called the book savings, which I'm sure, Honorable Chair and members, some of you know the book savings of the 80s. We have it. Just that book alone has about 400 million of people who seriously put money away, not to consume it, but to actually take children to school, to build houses, and actually acquire and accumulate these assets. You see KwaZulu-Natal today, you're seeing what I call a reverse urbanization. And because people are, most people have not observed, but there's a reverse urbanization that's happening. You're seeing a lot of sprawling, nice houses in rural areas that are there. There's an ecosystem that is being built. The majority of those houses are being financed by Ithala. Jozini, Tugela Ferry exists because we put up a branch. It's now a city center, Tugela Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vilakazi, and I certainly wish you all the best in those endeavours. And may I also suggest that the RA is included in that, the Prudential Authority and their agents and the FSCA, so that all on the same page there. because obviously that's where one of the biggest disputes is. I see Honourable de Klerk, if you've got a question, and then we can move on finally to that irregular expenditure. Honourable de Klerk, you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question is to try and assess how we can help Ithala. And I've listened carefully. It seems that what is said is that the legislation as it exists at the moment is actually an impediment to Ithala to comply, and thus it's causing them the inability to actually register as according to the law. So do I understand that then correctly? If that is so, we will have to push for the law to be amended, number one. Or there must be a permanent exemption, because that's what I hear almost from the CEO now, is that Ithala thinks because of their unique position, because of where they fit into the financial world in South Africa, they need a permanent exemption. Am I correct, sir? That's all then we know as politicians where we have to push for. We have to push nationally for an amendment to make space for Ithala, and if we can't do that quick enough, to arrange for some regulations that will assist Ithala to have a permanent exemption. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable de Klerk. Mr. Vilakazi, would you like to respond to that quickly, and then we'll go on to
Certainly, Honourable de Klerk has hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the input that would be very crucial and integral in actually about institutions such as ourselves. And you do have an ally at the Standing Committee on Finance. They've already made the resolution. If you check their report that was submitted on the 18th of September to National Assembly, one of their resolutions is actually to amend the Financial Matters Amendment Act so that a financial institution that is owned by a provincial entity can actually apply and enjoy the legitimate status. But what we want to emphasize, by having, for instance, a permanent exemption, it doesn't mean then we don't play by the rules. The Prudential Authority can still set up conditions like they did pre-2019 of saying that's your CAR, that's your LCR, all these things that you must perform to, and so that we submit BA returns. All of us, we don't come into these positions. We get a rigorous assessment by the Prudential Authority that we can be trusted enough to actually own and run, to actually run these operations. So yes, correct, Honourable de Klerk and Honourable Chair and members, the policy intervention is actually a solution, although we know it takes quite a bit of time. Hence, then there needs to be an interim, some kind of a limited exemption whilst all these matters are being put in place. Even, for instance, if we're going to get a strategic equity partner that would want to invest in Ithala, just the sections of the PFMA to dispose of an interest in an institution such as ourselves requires more than 18 months, close to 2 years, just to go through that loop. To get through the processes. So in that time, you need to be able to operate and not deteriorate the assets to the disadvantage of both the shareholder and the province. Because province, for over 10 years, have put in money here. Cumulatively, 550 million plus have been injected here. Province expect a return, and that return is both social, and then at some point it has to be financial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vilakazi. Let's now get into the irregular expenditure, and let me set the scene. The AGSA reported to us that there's historical irregular expenditure. It's been decreasing over the years, which we're grateful for, but historically it now sits at 107 million, and it hasn't been condoned by Treasury. Now, primarily that's because there has been a lack of investigation work been done into that irregular expenditure, and in order to give Treasury some comfort that it's been addressed. So could you just give us a sense, and I don't expect the full report now, a sense of where this irregular expenditure came from, what the source of it was? Was it contract management? Was it just a procurement issue? And because I am going to ask you for a detailed report on it in writing, but just give us a sense of where this has come from historically and why there's been such a slow investigations and or consequence management and or discipline process in regard to all of these, all this irregular expenditure. If you could just respond on that, and then I think we might also almost be done today.
Yes, I don't know whether Chair, I do want to respond, but I think from the input, my CFO is better positioned because of also the history and the period that he has been here. So he can actually grant. Safe to say on my side, the Ithala's operating system has got embedded services. For instance, when I started working in banking, I worked at Foscas many years ago. So I'm actually a banker that was in the 80s, although I keep my age very, very, very small. So Ithala operates a dual IT system. On the savings side, we run what is called Direct Transact. Now, Direct Transact is an entity that's a super highway that actually has 15 other banks, including African Bank, that actually operate using that particular platform. It's called a hosting platform. And then on one side, we have what is called a Bank Master, which is an old a model that deals with our savings. Now, because the arrangement with the Prudential Authority many years ago, exactly in 2001, was that because Ithala at that time did not have its own core banking platform, it had to rely on the services of Direct Transact, for an example. So that became what we call an essential service. Now, that essential service is embedded in our architecture in terms of how it's designed. So you sign a 5-year contract or a 5-year service level agreement, it expires, but there's no any other service provider in the market that is approved by the Prudential Authority to do what Direct Transact does for 15 other banks plus ourselves. Hence, then, it's an essential service that you need. So you then begin to negotiate 3 months, 90 days before, or 6 months before. You start negotiating on these contracts as you say, okay, the next contract loop, what's going to happen? And then you get into what I call that inertia period, where the contract ends, but it's December. People need to transact and use their services. Then you have to go through the SCM policies internally to extend that particular service that it is called. This is not just about the hosting. There's also the ATMs, the ATMs as we know it. There's also the messages that you get on your mobile to say your deposit has been made. These are essential services that you cannot abruptly simply put them in a straitjacketed SCM process. You need to follow a due process to have them extended and within that particular purpose. Maybe, Chair, because I know there's time pressure, if I can just allow the CFO to actually continue from that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vilakazi. Is it Mr. Gafu?
2006. Well, he didn't win a World Cup to earn it. This is why Virgil van Dijk.
Sorry, Honorable, sorry, Mr. Gafoor.
I was on an island in the middle of.
Somebody has there we go. You're now muted.
And someone would come and save me. I decided to build myself a house out of wood. I worked hard.
Mr. Gafoor, is that your sound in the background there? Whenever you unmute, there seems to be quite a bit of noise going on. I don't know if it's you.
I'm not too sure, Chair. Can you still hear it?
Yes, we can. It sounds like it's a television or something. Or?
Not here. Let me just move my device. Let's see if it works better.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Is it better, Chair?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you, Mr. Gafoor. If you wouldn't mind just taking the oath or affirmation just before you start giving us information, please.
Sure. Firstly, good afternoon, Honorable Chair, and afternoon, members. I'm Mohammed Gafoor. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gafoor. Please continue.
Okay. I'm just going to quickly flight the presentation that we've done. Just give me a second, please. So it will talk to the concerns that were raised. Firstly, to note that Ithala did receive an unqualified audit opinion with one non-compliance finding on consequence management. The financial statements have been prepared free of material statements for over 3 years. The non-compliance finding basically was raised against the consequence management, as you have highlighted, Chair. And with Ithala not completing those consequence managements within the prescribed timelines. The reason behind that is that Ithala has had a backlog of irregular expenditure going back from 2019. With also, we have lost a lot of key forensic staff within the audit department, which we only have left with one. So because of the volumes, which, as you highlighted earlier, amounts to about 107 million accumulated from 2019, is still awaiting investigations and condemnation from Provincial Treasury. So that has delayed the process. The current situation that we are facing also is that currently, as I indicated, there's only one person within the forensic department that performs irregular expenditure. We have outsourced previously forensic investigators, but with the repayment administrator brought in, he has to approve all procurements, and this request has been going back and forth with him for several weeks for us to bring in that investigator to assist with the completion, but till today he hasn't provided us with that approval. So this is delaying us completing all these investigations. We have made significant progress. As I indicated, we had irregular expenditure from 2019 awaiting investigations and recommendations in terms of consequence management. That has been brought up to the end of 2022 financial year. So there's 2 more financial years still to go in terms of completing those audits. We are in the process of applying for condemnation of those. So our board, we have taken it through the internal governance processes as well. We are in the process of now writing to Provincial Treasury to finalize or to request condemnations on those up to 2022. As indicated, there is the 2 financial years still to go. However, we are basically just waiting on the RA to approve that, so we can bring in the forensic investigations to complete these audits. Just to note that we are taking consequence management. It's just obviously the compliance finding that has been raised by the AG, which prevented us from receiving this clean audit, is basically as a result of us not timelessly completing those. But we are committed to complete all those investigations. We are trying, and we've set plans in place in order to complete those investigations by the end of this financial year, and hopefully have already submitted the condemnation request to Provincial Treasury by the end of this financial year. In terms of the irregular expenditure, I think the summary in terms of the overall audit outcomes, as we can note here, there has been improvements over the years. We have received a clean audit in terms of expenditure management and irregular expenditure. As you have rightfully noted, there has been a decline of irregular expenditure. For the previous financial year, we've incurred irregular expenditure of about 1.4 million compared to the prior year of 2023 of 4.5 million, and the year prior to that was 18 million. I think, as Dr. Verkazi has mentioned, the reasons for these have been as a result of contract management, as well as finalizing the SAM process when those contracts expired. However, all these contracts are essential contracts or essential services contract. And should we terminate any of these contracts prior to procuring all that, that would have affected our banking clients. As Dr. Vilakazi has mentioned, the few which were like Direct Transact, which does the hosting of our debit cards and all debit card transactions, the ATM solutions, which is access to all our ATMs as a channel for the clients, as well as PayPoints, which talks to value-added services that we offer, such as cell phone banking, USSD to our clients. Chair, that's basically where we are with irregular. It is on the decline, and we are committed to reducing that to zero. We just, as indicated, we have put in put in quite a bit of processes in terms of contract management, and we are seeing the rewards of those. Hence the decline in irregular expenditure. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gafoor. Just a quick question. You say so basically irregular expenditure has not been investigated for the last 2 years. Did you only become aware of that irregular expenditure? Because the RA has only been in position, to the best of my knowledge, since December 2023, so effectively for the last 10 months or so.
Yeah.
10, 11 months. Were you aware of that regular expenditure before the RA came into play, or only subsequent to that?
No, we were aware of this. These were irregular expenditures identified in those financial years. As I indicated earlier, there has been delays in the completion of these because of the lack of resources within the internal audit department, which resulted.
If I can just stop you there, you initially said the reason why this has not been done is because the RA is blocking you. But now you've just said that you're aware of the regular expenditure before, so it could have been surely addressed before the RA came into play. That's really my question.
Because through you, Chair, I think it's just a slight misunderstanding. We have, as I said, indicated, made significant strides by investigating those irregular expenditures that we've identified in those years, began in 2019. However, when there was delays in commencements initially of these irregular expenditures, which only started in 2022 when the internal audit started to investigate these. As I indicated, there was a large volume. That's why we're sitting at about 107 million worth of irregular expenditure. So because of the volumes, it took them a while to finalize, as they have finalized up to 2022. But there's still 2 more financial years. So we have made strides from 2019 up to 2022 to finalize those. But for the last 2 financial years, that's since when the RA has come in, that we have not been able to finalize the last 2 years. Hence, there's that delay currently, but we're still committed to complete this by the end of this financial year.
All right. What engagements are you having with the RA to actually get that to get those investigations authorized? Are you having a Mexican standoff at the moment?
No.
Is there a way forward on this?
No, there is a way forward. It's just that, so with the RA in place, and obviously there's, with his mandate, it seems to be that he does, or he's insisting on all our procurements. So all procurements firstly follow the internal processes to get approved. Once that is approved, then we send it to the RA for his approval. So his stance on all procurement is that it has to be on a month-to-month basis. So for this particular one, we asked for 900 hours from a particular individual to investigate, or from a company to investigate irregular expenditure as the normal, as well as other normal forensic audits that do come up. So he wasn't happy on how we determining the 900 hours. So there's quite a few back and forths that we are having with him to help him understand why we're requesting those hours. So it's been going on for the last maybe 2 months now, where there's back and forth emails. It's how the RA works is that he has representatives we take it to that representative, we make our submission to him, we provide it. He comes back with questions, so we clarify those questions, then he takes it physically then to the RA himself and tries and gets that approval. The RA and his legal team might have additional questions, and then they come back. So there's that time delay with all procurement currently.
Okay, I fully understand that. Okay. I'm not sure how many members are still on the call, but members, are there any questions to Mr. Gafoor on the regular expenditure?
No call.
Yes, Honourable de Klerk. Honourable de Klerk, yeah,
No, I've got no
Oh,
question.
Thank you, Honourable de Klerk. Okay, Mr. Gafoor, I'm sure it would be within your powers, and I'm now also talking to Mr. Vilakazi because I think we've come more or less to the end of our engagement. We will write to you, but I think what we're going to need from today's engagement is a quarterly update on, number one, the ongoing interactions between the Prudential Authority and Ithala and the way forward there, so that we are kept updated. And then, in addition to that, Mr. Gafoor, could you please provide us with just a full summarized list of the consequence management issues? And in other words, as I told Ezemvelo before, we need to know the particular incident, who the charged member is, and the progress on it, the amounts involved, etc., etc. So a detailed breakdown of where that 107 million comes from that you're trying to get condonment on. If we could just get some sort of sense of what's going on there, that would be very useful. But we will in due course write to you requesting that, and of course we will also ask you to adhere to the recommendations of the AGSA report. Is that okay, Mr. Gafoor and Mr. Vilakazi?
Yes, Chair, we note the request.
Yeah, no, it's actually we note and appreciate your request. Thank you.
Okay, no problems. Members, are there any other issues that we need to ask Ithala to report to us on? Okay, I think we're all right. Kabo, is there any other business we need to conclude? Are you happy that we are done with our agenda?
Thank you, Chair. I want to believe that now we are done with the agenda, sir.
Right, well, wonderful. It's now a 5 hours and 21 minutes engagement that we've had with the two entities today and the AGSA. AGSA, I just want to thank you particularly for walking this path with us. I know it's been a long session, but we really appreciate your input. I'm sorry that you had to hang around and I didn't ask you any questions, but there's always the possibility that you may be helpful. So thank you to particularly Ms. Howard and to Mr. Coates, and I think it was Kabiso, whoever else is on from AGSA. Thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to Ithala and to all the EDTIA officials that are on the call and the Ezemvelo officials. We do appreciate meeting with you. And once again, just want to reiterate our commitment to working with you to try and get you to the position where you don't have to appear in front of Scopa. That's where we want all departments, all entities to get to, that we don't want you here. We'd like to meet you over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and talk about the weather, but certainly not about this. So we would like to walk the path with you and stay in touch and help you wherever we can. So once again, thank you, everybody, and I wish you all a good weekend and a nice Friday afternoon. And until we speak again, thank you very much. The meeting is now over.
Thank you, Chair. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Chair, and honourable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.